The Senate now has before it for final consideration House Bill number 298. The Secretary will read the bill.
In the House of Representatives, House Bill 298 by Education Committee, an act relating to student immunizations, to revise terminology.
Madam President.
Senator Den Hartog.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask unanimous consent that further reading of House Bill 298 be dispensed with, and the journal show it's been read for the third time at length and is properly before the Senate for final consideration.
You've heard the unanimous consent request. Is there an objection? Hearing none, it is so ordered, and Senator Den Hartog is recognized to open debate.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow senators. House Bill 298 is all about parental notification regarding exemptions that already exist in state code related to vaccinations. So you'll see that the bill makes changes to Code 394802. I wanted to share a little bit of history about what this is and where it came from. When this section of state code was originally added to require immunizations for school-age children in all of our schools, at the same time that a former legislature introduced the requirement for immunizations, they also, and this was in 1978, included the exemptions. So this has been in state code for a long time, and it was recognized back then as it's recognized now that we have an immunization requirement, but we also have in the state of Idaho, we recognize exemptions. So what this particular piece of legislation does, it doesn't change the requirements and it doesn't change the exemptions. What it does, it says in the communication that the schools have with parents is to make sure that it's clear, not only the requirement, but the availability of exemptions. We've dealt with this issue for a number of years. I know there's many on this floor who have worked with the Department of Health and Welfare on the exemption form. That had been a concern years ago, and the department and again many of you on this floor worked to make changes to that so it was clear, it was accessible, and so we've made a lot of great progress. So what this bill does, it says and if you look on the second page of the bill, and that's where the heart of it is, it just says school officials shall describe the exemptions provided in this section and provide a citation to the section in any communication to parents and guardians regarding an immunization. I wanted to share just a few things with you. I didn't provide a handout, but I had worked with my co-sponsor in the House on this bill, and she had provided several examples of school communications from different districts across the state and the types of things that were being said. So the schools were doing a great job notifying parents about the immunization requirements, that they had to have it on file with the district before their students could enter school. One of the concerns, and this happened to be the particular experience of my co-sponsor in the body across the rotunda, she had received an email communication that says your child will not be able to attend school on September 14th without an updated immunization record on file, and the letter does several other things. So it's concerning, and she had experienced, her child was fully vaccinated. We have a new vaccine requirement that schools were recognizing and asking students to receive the second meningitis shot in the 12th grade. So this really is just about parent notification. It's not an attempt to decrease the number of child immunizations. It really is just about parent notification. So with that, Madam President, debate is open.
Is there further debate?
Madam President.
Senator Martin.
Madam President, I reluctantly, but I think it's very important that I rise and discuss with you this bill. And I guess my first reaction is why that we have this bill. As is indicated, it's clear in state code, and the previous myself and other legislators have worked hard to make sure that the school districts are explaining to the parents the requirements and the exceptions. I've talked with the particular school district that sent out this notification. They have indicated that it was sent incorrectly, that it was a previous one prior to the work that we had done with them, and that they apologized to me and said that they have corrected the letter that is being sent out so that it is neutral. The good chairman of the Health and Welfare Committee before me, the good senator from District 24, worked hard to make these forms neutral. And it is correct that prior to his work, maybe the forms were one-sided or unbalanced, if I could use that, to maybe intimidate. And that's not the intent. The intent of the law is to say these are recommended vaccinations because of religious or other reasons. You can exempt yourself or your children from that. There's a couple questions I do have with, I guess my first question is, why do we need this? I guess we pass things that are redundant, but I think this is redundant, to say the least. If you notice in the statement of purpose, and this is a minor error, but it is an error to me, it indicates a verbal communication. Then in the bill itself, it says any communication. And so is it verbal only? Is it any? It probably is any communication, but it does indicate in the statement of purpose a verbal communication. I also question the no impact, fiscal impact. There's probably not to the state, but there could be possibly a fiscal impact to some of the school districts. And again, why this bill? And I'm not in any way, shape, or form questioning the good intention of the co-sponsors, especially the sponsor from the body across the rotunda or our Senate sponsor. I believe this is an honest attempt to make sure that the communications from the school districts are appropriate. I have high confidence that going forward they will be, but again, is this necessary or not? To me, and I reluctantly mention this, but I will, I wonder the effects of this. What are the long-term effects? I believe that we need to encourage people to do proper medical procedures. You know, when I was first married and we had children, if somebody would ask me were our children vaccinated, I'd say, I don't know. My wife handles that. I assume they are. I don't know what she's doing. I'm assuming she's doing that. It wasn't much of a thought to me. I had other things to worry about other than taking the kids to be vaccinated. And then I work with the Department of Health and Welfare, being on the Health and Welfare Committee, and realize how critical medical procedures are to all of us. You have a handout on your desk talking about, and I won't refer to it, but I would hope you would look at it. I also asked the Department of Health and Welfare their vital statistics to give me an indication of some of the communicable diseases that we've had and the death rates in the last 10 years. And they looked up from 2010 to 2019, tuberculosis, diphtheria, whooping cough, polio, chickenpox, measles, rubella, and mumps, and looked up those items. I believe because of vaccination in the state of Idaho, there has been one death from those diseases in the last 10 years. Compare that to when I was growing up, and the effects is drastically different. I believe that we all have the right to choose. I believe that code relative to immunization is extremely well written and extremely there to send the correct message to our citizens. And you see a lot of things on the internet, but let me tell you one thing I've learned about medicine and procedures in the state of Idaho. When I asked, and I've read this in several locations, what are the three most important advancements in medical technology in the last 100 years? The three most important. Now think that for a minute. We've had open heart surgery, we've had heart transplants, knee transplants, all these different technologies that have been developed in the last 100 years. And I was told that the three most important advancements are clean water, proper sanitation, and vaccinations. That they have caused more people to live longer, to have healthy lives, to not die premature, than all the others combined advancements. Again, clean water, you think, duh, clean water. Proper sanitation, washing your hands, proper facilities that we now have, modern facilities, and then again, vaccinations. If we don't remember history, we are condemned to repeat it. I've told this story on the floor of the Senate before, but it's been about 8 years, so if I may, I'd like to repeat it. I'm old enough to remember polio, the absolute fear of polio. I'm extremely claustrophobic, and when I heard about the iron lung, it just petrified me, even the concept of an iron lung. When I was in the first grade, prior to the polio vaccination, at Christmas time, prior to Christmas, we did an exchange of another student in the class. And I got a young lady in my class to be able to give a gift. And so I went to my parents, frankly found something, an old gift that I had that I re-gifted to her, but don't tell her that. But anyway, I that's what I did. And in fact, it was a Chinese checkers game, a little flat thing that the marbles were inside. It was metal. You opened it up and then played the checkers, and it was in a box. And I remember going to school a couple days before Christmas for our gift exchange, and she wasn't there. I went home. She lived about a mile from us, and I told my parents that she wasn't there. I needed to take this gift over to her, and my parents, said I could not go over to her house. And I go, yeah, I've got to take this gift over to this. Her name was Grace, also named Grace. Her name was Grace. And I insisted that we go over to her house. Finally, my parents took me over, drove me over, got to the house. My father honked the horn. And I thought, well, he'd never done that before. Why aren't we just going in? But he was honking the horn. In a few minutes, someone came out of the house. I was in the back seat. I can remember it like it was yesterday. My mother took the gift, opened the window on her side of the car just an inch or two, and passed the gift out. The person, whoever it was, I assume her parents, took it, and we left. And I thought that was this rude and strange thing that my parents would do it that way. I later found out she had polio, and they were afraid even to go into the house or have any association with them. I remember then, soon after that, having the little sugar cubes at school, which we did it at school. If that was done today, there would be, all sorts of problems. But at school, we had the little sugar cube with the little drop. And because of that, in the United States, polio has been eradicated, and nearly eradicated in the world. Again, I fear of the unintended consequences of this bill. We right now have a good system. It is working. I realize that failed in this situation. Those that sent out that email have repented, said they'll never do it again. I believe them. I would strongly encourage your no vote to send a message that these procedures are critical. At the same time, everyone in the state of Idaho has the opportunity. They have no agency. If they don't want to do these procedures, they don't have to, and nothing will happen to them for not doing these procedures. Madam President, thank you for allowing me to debate. Again, I encourage your nay vote.
Is there further debate?
Madam President.
Senator Rice.
Behind us at various points in the room are 27 volumes of state laws. I doubt that anyone in this room, including the lawyers, have read every word on every page of those 27 volumes. That's our state code. There's a reason we require that when a notice is given of a requirement, that the notices of the exceptions be given with it. And that is because our citizens deserve to be able to make their choice based on knowledge of the law. That's important to me. It reminds me that one of the first decisions of the Supreme Court of the United States stated that jurors could do some particular things. 100 years later, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled, but you can't tell them so. And most people aren't aware of the full power of the jury in a criminal case. In fact, they're instructed differently. But what we have in this instance is a bill that says, let's tell them about it. They have this right. Each parent, based on their fundamental right to make the decisions about their children, has the right to decide about vaccinations. I personally believe that vaccination is an important and useful tool. I don't believe that we have anyone on the floor that thinks that vaccination is a terrible thing. It has saved lives. It has improved lives for many of our citizens and for many people throughout the world. In fact, some diseases have been virtually eradicated that used to be the scourge of communities because of the number of people that were dying from those diseases. But it is important that we remember that our citizens don't recreationally read the Idaho Code. And so I'll be voting aye on this bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there further debate?
Madam President.
Senator Sousa.
Thank you, Madam President. I support this bill and want to tell you that several of us on this floor worked very hard to remodel the former form that was used by the schools to as a way of parents trying to list out what vaccines their children had or that they did not want them to have. And it was not the best form, and even the department recognized that. So we helped them remodel the form to be more direct, more clear, less judgmental, and to offer parents a way to fill out the form and understand this is the exemption form for the vaccines for their children in school. And then we worked with the education group, the State Board of Education, the Superintendent of Public Instruction's office, and I personally went to their office to ask them to put in the newsletters that let parents know that the exemption is available, because we were having a lot of trouble with the schools using the old form that was more punitive in its tone. And we had this new form, we had options for parents to use, but the schools were not necessarily ready to change over. So it is not it's not spontaneous that today's sponsor of this bill is suddenly bringing forward something in statute to make sure that the parents are notified. It is because we have tried many different ways to get that notification out to parents so that they can make a complete review of the benefits and the drawbacks of their decisions, and they have full information. That's parental rights. They have full information. So we will put this in law through this bill if it is so approved here, and then parents can get the information rather than withhold information and hope that they don't find out that there's an exemption in the law. We should show them that, yes, this is the exemption, and here are the benefits of the vaccines, and here are the ways that you can exempt your child out of the vaccines if that is your decision. And I would urge your support for this bill.
Is there further debate?
Madam President.
Senator Burgoyne.
I need to explain my vote, and I can't do it in 60 seconds. I keep my vaccinations up to date. I've never had a problem with a vaccine. I had a family member who did have a problem with the vaccine, and we responded in a medically appropriate way. And she was not vaccinated for quite a long period of time, and now she makes those decisions. And to me, vaccinations are a situational issue. But parents need to have truthful information. They need truthful information about what our law is, and they need truthful information about vaccines. And to be honest, I've been disappointed after doing some inquiry and examination over the years about where we are on securing voluntary vaccinations. And I think the state of Idaho could do a much better job of educating people about the virtues and demerits of vaccinations and securing voluntary compliance with vaccinations. And until we do that, I don't think there's any issue, at least for me, about, and I get a lot of mail, I'm sure like you do, a lot of email about an assumption that we require vaccinations. And I wouldn't even entertain such an idea until I felt that everything that was being done to secure voluntary compliance was being done first, and I don't think we're there. I've read that code, and it's true. I have not read every word of the Idaho Code, and I think the senator from 10 makes an excellent point. But that happens to be a piece of the code that caught my attention, and I did read, and I think there's some unfortunate language in the code. It says that school children are required to be vaccinated. And then this works great for lawyers, but it doesn't work so well for other people. There's an exception, and the exception is a very broad exception. And it really caused me, when I got to the end of the sentence and the end of the section, to say, why is the word required in here? It just isn't required. And yet, interestingly, I receive mail that says it is required, and I object to that. So I don't think we're doing ourselves any favors with the words in the code, stating a standard that in fact does not exist. And I do think that people are entitled to the full picture. And the full picture is, in part, this legislation, which may or may not add significantly to our code. But the code is supposed to communicate. And we have regular folks who are relying on the notices that they get from their schools. And so I think that needs to accurately state what the requirement is, and the requirement is in fact 0. Conversely, and that isn't before us today, but I think it should be at some point, we need to do a much better job of securing voluntary compliance. And that means making sure that all parents and all citizens of Idaho, all residents, understand vaccinations, their availability, what they do, the benefits, and the risks, the detriments. And there are people who have valid medical reasons, and there are people who have religious objections, and those need to be respected and informed about. And that's what concerns me about our vaccination policy in Idaho, is I think the way we've approached this is unnecessarily undermining a degree of trust. At least that's what I see in my mail. And I think that if we want voluntary vaccinations to be at a sufficiently high level, working on this trust element would help. I don't think it's a panacea that's going to solve all problems. So this is a piece of that to me. Different people will see it as a big piece, a smaller piece. Some, I suppose, will be opposed, but for me, having received this constituent mail, believe that it will help on the trust element if we are not making mistakes with the notices that parents receive. I have supported making sure that you don't have to go through the bureaucratic exercise of filling out a particularized form, that you can write it on the back of an envelope and sign it and send it to school if you want. In that vein, and it is in that vein that I will vote yes on this legislation. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there further debate?
Madam President.
Senator Hyder.
Thank you, Madam President. Good senators, you know, we have been round and round and round with this issue for a number of years, a number of sessions. There have been knockdown, drag-out fights, believe me, in the legislature and in the Health and Welfare Committee and even in my own neighborhood about this issue. We've come to the conclusion, ultimately, that we all support vaccinations. And we do, and we want every child to be vaccinated. But there are people in our society, there are mothers and fathers who do not believe in immunizations. And for us to require that, or require that they have a doctor's signature on a card, is simply not workable. There will be parents who will obviously keep their children out of school rather than get a doctor's note that says their child has not been immunized. I would rather have those children in school than out of school. I would rather work with parents than not work with parents. Although this bill has the greatest of intent, I cannot go along with this. I've worked for so many years to try and get parents to be able to give a note to a school exempting their child from immunizations, even though that wouldn't be my preference. I have done that for the sake of those parents who are anti-vaccination. And the department has worked on that and agreed with that over the past years. And it's very, very difficult for us to come to this point again in this session where we're fighting over this issue. And regardless of how you feel you need to vote, I understand that and I accept that. But for me, I've fought the fight too long to yield now to a doctor's order for immunizations being required. So I just wanted to point that out. It's been a long fight, difficult fight. Thought we'd had the fight won, and evidently we don't yet, and that will be okay. We'll proceed forth for another year. So thank you, good senators.
Is there further debate? Senator Zito.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to first start by thanking the senator and the good representative from across the rotunda for working hard on this and bringing it forth. Knowledge is power. And when we empower our citizens and we empower parents with knowledge and wisdom, not necessarily wisdom, but knowledge, there's nothing better that we can do. I would have to agree that not all of us have time to sit and read Idaho code. And even when it's something specific to what we're doing right now, it's often difficult for us to be able to read it and understand it, though our Constitution calls for our law to be written in the plain language of the people. That being said, for every correspondence to be able to have to specify that parents can opt out of the vaccinations in every communication with the parents, I think that's very empowering because, you know, we know it's there, but I get a lot of emails and I get a lot of calls also from people, you know, what is the law? How does this work? What do we do? How do we know what is truth and what isn't the truth about it? And I would also just like to point out that we often talk about the standard of care and we often talk about what works and what doesn't work. But we see the standard of care change over the years. And when it comes to what we put into our bodies and what we put into our children's bodies, not just vaccinations, but the food we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and I am not at all anti-vax. I want to make that very, very clear. But what I am is I believe that people should be informed, that they should know and they should have the facts. And I just believe that this bill goes so far to make sure that our citizens have the facts and that they know exactly where they stand. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there further debate?
Madam President, Madam President, excuse me.
Is there anyone who wishes to debate for the second time, or the first time? Senator Nye.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the sponsor yield to a question?
Will the senator from District 22 yield to a question from the senator from District 29?
Madam President, I will yield.
Senator Nye, if you'd state your question.
Thank you, Madam President. Good Senator, did you have a chance to see the rest of the statute that already requires notification?
Senator Den Hartog.
Madam President, Senator from 29, if the senator has a specific code reference.
Senator Nye, would you cite the code that you reference?
I just lost it. It's the one right after this 394802.
Senator Den Hartog.
Madam President, I have not reviewed that section of code.
Senator Nye.
Madam President, it's actually
Senator Nye, do you have another question for the
one
senator?
more question, yes.
Will the senator yield further?
Madam President, yes, I will.
Senator Nye.
I'm referring to 394804, entitled Notification to Parent or Guardian.
Senator Den Hartog.
Madam President, I didn't hear a question.
Senator Nye, would you restate your question, please, to the senator?
Thank you, good Senator. Did you take into account the 394804 that already requires notification?
Senator Den Hartog.
Thank you, Madam President. No, not that specific section, but I will tell you the reason that it is in this specific section related to school district communications is because the communications were lacking the notification about the existing code related to exemptions.
Thank you. To debate the bill.
Senator Nye is recognized to debate the bill.
And Madam President, might I refer to this code section?
Yes, Senator, having identified the source, the senator may read.
394804 is entitled Notification to the Parent or Guardian. It says, before an immunization is administered to any child in this state, the parent or guardian shall be notified, and then lists things. First, immunizations are not mandatory and may be refused on religious or other grounds. Second, the parent's entitled to an accurate explanation of the complications known. And it goes on that immunizations are not mandatory and it can be refused on various grounds. So this was put in code, Madam President, in 2010. And it does appear to me that while the language of the proposed statute is salutary, it probably isn't needed really because it's already there and the parent is entitled to be notified. It says before immunization is administered, the child is to be notified. Thank you.
Is there further debate?
Madam President.
Senator Thane.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to make a couple of comments. First, to respond from the good senator from 29. Section of Code 394804 is before an immunization is administered. That indicates to me in the doctor's office. We're talking about the parent getting information before the fact. If you have to sign up to go to a doctor's office to get that information, you probably spend a lot of time, it's going to cost you some money. So this isn't the same purpose of this bill. Purpose of the bill is in a school setting that the parents be given information. Now, why I'm very supportive of this bill is that if you want to get parents engaged, they have to have a choice. Now, you might not like the choice they make, but if we're going to be respectful to our citizens in this state, they need to be given the information and reasoning, if you want to give that reasoning to them, so that they can be informed about the choices they make. But we need to be respectful to our citizens. And I feel like that's what this bill does. It simply tells our citizens, you have a choice, and it infers that they should do some research on that choice. If they do or not, we can't control that. But, you know, we all support, I believe, vaccinations at different levels. We all support, I believe, proper medical procedures. But the bottom line is we support the rights of people and parents to make those decisions, and that's what this bill does. Thank you very much.
Is there further debate? Senator Martin.
Madam President, to debate the second time on this
Senator
bill.
has the floor.
And I apologize, good senators. I was going to read an email. I'm asking permission to read an email sent to me on April the 9th concerning House Bill 298 from Quinn Perry, the director of the Idaho School Board Associations.
Having identified the source, the senator may read.
Thank you, Madam President, fellow senators. Again, Quinn Perry of the Idaho School Board Association said in this email, "We fully support that parents have the right to choose whether or not to immunize their children and respect that right. We have supported administrative rules from the Health and Welfare Committees that clarify how the exception process will be carried out. However, our members also understand that they carry a very serious responsibility to protect all students and staff in their school buildings, regardless of their immunization status. As you can imagine, this issue has become a large discussion for our members in recent years, and recent measles outbreaks in our neighboring states in this Corona-19 pandemic. Our association works closely with school districts and charter schools to ensure that are equipped with following the current state statute when it comes to exemptions, including helping update their local school policies to outline the exceptions available and processes. Furthermore, we personally checked with over 50 school districts and found that immunization exception information was found on the forms itself, on the website, and in school district policies, and sometimes in all three places in every school we checked, and in all three places every school that we checked. Many of you know that Idaho has one of the highest immunization exception rates in the country. Parents or guardians who make the decision not to immunize well before the children reach school age and are aware that they have to provide to the school when it comes to registration. We fully believe that this requirement can further relax the standard on this important issue and put the remainder of our students and staff at an even greater risk of communicable diseases. As such, we are unable to support this legislation. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there any further debate? Hearing none, Senator Den Hartog is recognized to close debate.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to thank the senators from districts 15, 10, 4, 16, 24, 23, 29, and 8 for the good debate on the floor today. Before I get into my closing remarks, I just want to say a special thanks to the senators from districts 15 and 24 and 4, and at least to my knowledge, the senator from 9. I'm thinking about those who were involved in updating the exemption form through the Department of Health and Welfare. I see this particular piece of legislation as being a companion effort to the years of efforts in modifying that form to make it more balanced. I think the senator from 15 had that was good terminology. It was unbalanced, and I think we have made a lot of progress. You know, I had mentioned in my opening, at least for my good co-sponsor across the rotunda, the reason she was working on this legislation. But in her work, based on her particular experience, she had gathered letters of communication from school districts to parents from all corners of the state. So while we have exemptions in place, the types of communications that were actively going out throughout this last school year from school districts to parents was extremely unclear to parents about the existing status of our state policy. So I would just like to reiterate that this particular piece of legislation doesn't change our state policy. It doesn't change our state policy that says and I appreciate the senator from District 16 talking about the use of the word required, and maybe that's something we need to go back and look at. But we do want voluntary compliance for immunizations. We know what they have done for our society and for our communities and the diseases that have been eradicated because of the advancements of medical technology and science. And many have said on this floor as well that they are not anti-vax, and that's certainly not where I am, and that's not the purpose that I have supported this and brought it forward for your consideration. So this doesn't change state policy requiring or recommending immunizations for our school-age children, and it doesn't change the exemptions that currently exist in state code. It simply says that the communications from the school districts, then that's different than the code that was cited earlier from the senator from District 29, which has to do with notification when you're at your doctor's office. This is specific to school communications to parents, so that parents who don't have the time to study state code know what their rights are and that they can make an informed choice. And in that informed choice, they may choose to use the now updated exemption form that the Department of Health and Welfare has available. I don't think this relaxes our standards in any way, and it's certainly not my hope that it decreases our immunization rates. But I think information is a powerful tool, and I think putting that in the hands of our parents really does show that we trust people to make choices and that they have all the information available to them to make those choices. So with that, Madam President, fellow senators, debate is closed.
Debate being closed, the question is, shall House Bill number 298 pass the Senate? The Secretary will call the roll.
Eigenbrod, Anthen, Baer, Bayer, Burgoyne, Burtonshaw, Cook, Crabtree, Den Hartog, Grow, Guthrie, Harris, Hyder, Johnson, Lakey, Lee.
Madam President.
Senator Lee.
60 seconds to explain my vote.
Senator has 60 seconds.
Thank you, Madam President. I think folks in this body know that I am a big supporter of my public schools, and I believe that the individuals do a really good job in trying to make sure that they inform our parents. But the fact that we are still discussing this issue and that there is still disparity around our state about just what our state policy is in informing our parents about our policy on vaccination means that we need to provide some more clarity, and that is what my vote will reflect, and the senator votes aye.
Senator Lee votes aye.
Lent, Lodge, Martin, Nelson, Nye, Patrick, Robbie, Rice, Ricks, Briggs, Souza, Stennett, Thane, Beck, Ward Engelking, Winder, Wintrow, Woodward, Cito, Hagenbrod, Hyder,
Roll call shows 30 ayes, 5 nays, 0 absent and excused, a majority having voted in the affirmative. House Bill number 298 has passed the Senate. Is there a correction to the journal? Hearing none, a correction to the title. Hearing none, the title is also approved, and House Bill number 298 will be returned to the House of Representatives.